to the next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's from Nepal. It says conservationists are wary of Nepal's plan to relocate blackbucks. Nepal plans to relocate 18 critically endangered blackbucks from Shuklafanta National Park to Tikoli, a corridor forest near Chitwan National Park. The move, involving 6 males and 12 females, aims to establish a new population and protect the species from localized disasters. However, the plan faces significant criticism from conservationists. Ecologists raise concerns about Tikoli's suitability, noting its humid, monsoonal climate and susceptibility to flooding, which contrasts with the blackbuck's preference for arid, short grassland environments. Tall grasses in Tikoli could limit food availability and hinder predator detection. Furthermore, the area's high densities of tigers and leopards could pose a substantial predation risk, with officials acknowledging that leopards might breach enclosure fences. The translocation highlights an overall tension between conservation goals and ecological challenges. And I think this is where it becomes really tricky with conservation. Like, you might want something good, but you might not be doing it how it should be done. So here, the blackbirds don't belong in the humid climate with the tall grasses, but they feel like if they relocate them, and that too they're critically endangered, that if they relocate them, that would be a good move for the blackbucks, and they might have more area and they might thrive. But they don't look at the negativity of it, that they might actually not thrive, that might actually lead to all of these 18 blackbucks dying. One, maybe because of starvation. Two, because the tigers and the leopards can prey on them very, very easily.
That is another thing. Like, this is, I think we have covered a couple of stories like this, like relocations and you know
Am I audible?
yes. um yeah, so sorry. We I think we have covered a few similar stories where about relocations. I think we covered rhino relocation, some hippo relocations, and all the other relocations that goes on. um Relocations are really taxing uh, on the animal, and I think especially in a situation like this where it's we are sort of taking a gamble on the future of these. Not only
I mean,
the
this is stupidity. This is not a gamble. Like, when you know they
mm,
don't belong in such kind of environments, to relocate them is utter stupidity.
mm,
Sorry, but there's no other way to put it.
mm. And we like humans as a species, we are guilty of that particular fact that we we sort of make these sweeping decisions, and generally it comes to bite us back. um
Yeah, and then we'll call, like, if the blackbacks kind of thrive and they overpopulate, then we'll say, oh, invasive species. And then we would be the ones who actually introduce them. And all the invasive species across the world are introduced by humans, and we refuse to call ourselves invasive, but we'll call everything else invasive. And it
mm,
all happens because we think that it's a good idea to somehow take this organism or animal from here, transport it to another place. Sometimes, obviously, you can't help it because the mice, how they traveled was through boats and there was no way to account for them. But a lot of times it's been very intentional. And in this case, also, the relocation is very intentional because they're saying, oh, this antelope will have a new habitat, and it might be protected from other diseases or disasters that might happen in its original habitat. Now, even if that happens, the spread or the way it travels, there could be other ways to maybe control it if there's a proper program to conserve these blackbucks. But to put them in an environment that is hostile to them is as good as killing them.
yeah, I think there's, I don't know the what the ecologists are thinking in this particular case. um uh, I'm not sure about that, but um, I think there has been, again, I shared the story about the Przewalski's horses where they were introduced as a gamble to an area, and they managed to rewild that entire sort of hectares of area.
No, but the
um
Shavolki's horses used to be there before, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that is the thing. If they're filling a niche or a void, then it's fine. But if they're not filling a niche or a void, then they wouldn't survive. They wouldn't thrive. It's the
mm,
same with like with this black bugs, they're not actually filling a niche or void. They don't belong in that kind of landscape. They don't thrive in that kind of landscape. So it's very different.
mm, yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. um I
And
think,
I think I mean if it's a and I don't know how these governments function, like what kind of researchers they have on board, what conservationists they have on board, what scientists they have on board. Like I mean, who is telling them that this is a good idea? Like I really want to know that part. Like like who in the committee is saying, oh, black bugs don't belong here, but let's give it a try. Like like let's see what happens.
yeah, no, I think we need to make better decisions. That is for sure. And
And animals are not our guinea pigs to experiment on. Like, I mean, it's not like, oh, I don't have any other project today, so let's try and relocate these black bugs and see how they'll do. That's not how it works. Like, if you really care about conservation, if you actually care about your environment, there are a lot of pressing issues across Nepal anywhere. And you don't have to do this to actually, conserve the black bugs when they're critically endangered. Like, they are critically endangered.
mm, mm. Yeah, no, that is unfortunately, you know, how things are. I don't know if there is a mechanism for the public. If anyone's listening from Nepal, probably they would be able to tell us. But I don't know if there's a mechanism for the public to actually get involved in some shape or form, or stop this from happening. I don't know if there is, but you know, definitely
I
hoping.
mean, the conservationists are obviously against it, and there is like tension around it because that is what conservationists do and activists do. They know exactly what is good for the animal, but at the same time, you're against the government, you're against officials who say it is a good decision. So you'll have to see at the end of the day who actually wins. So that is the point. Like if you're up against the government, it actually depends. Sometimes the government makes good choices, but a lot of times I feel like mostly it makes bad choices regarding the environment, but sometimes it makes good choices. So we'll
Mm,
keep you updated. Like another story, if we have an update, we'll let you know what happens.
right.